we weren't religious. I also didn't have so much knowledge in Judaism at all. I knew I was Jewish, and I knew that meant, that I was different in certain ways, and I knew that our history was different, but I don't think I really connected to it. Especially growing up, I just always wanted to I never wanted to feel excluded. I always wanted to feel, like just the same as everybody else and kind of like fit in.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories. I'm Chana Weisberg, host of this podcast. Today I'm joined by Naomi Rubenstein. Thank you so much for joining us all the way down from Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Hi, thank you for having me.
How far? What's the place again called where you are?
Tamarindo.
Okay, and how far is that from Costa Rica?
It's in Costa Rica.
It's in Costa Rica, from San Jose.
4-hour drive from San Jose.
Okay, most of us know San Jose, and I understand it's a gorgeous place down there.
Yeah, it really is. Actually, we have a lot of American tourists coming in here and not San Jose, just because the beaches are all here, and the jungles, and the monkeys.
Oh, wow. So beautiful.
Yeah.
I was in Costa Rica many years ago, and it was gorgeous. The rainforest and all that. It was really pretty. So
we love it here.
I found it interesting. We were just talking before, and Naomi, you said you didn't find anything interesting about your story, but I found your story so fascinating. And I found so many people who have such interesting stories just don't think their stories are so extraordinary, but they really are. So tell us a little about yourself. Tell us a little about your background and about your interesting story, how you really came kind of full circle around to your life kind of evolved in a way that became full circle, but then you also had a lot of twists along the way and some twists and turns that were difficult and challenging along the way.
Right.
So tell us a little about yourself.
I guess I told you, right? I guess I was just living, and suddenly I realized, okay, this is something else. Like, we really, I'm going through some things, and I think one of the best ways of dealing with these kinds of things is just trying to help other people and trying to inspire other people, and I guess using your challenge as a way to like elevate yourselves and elevate others, and especially during these hard times. And with everything I've been going through, I felt like it was a good time to speak my voice and to share my story. So
start from the beginning. Start from the very beginning.
So I was born. I was born in Venezuela, and I moved to Costa Rica when I was 5 with my family, and we weren't religious. I also didn't have so much knowledge in Judaism at all. I knew I was Jewish, and I knew that meant, that I was different in certain ways, and I knew that our history was different, but I don't think I really connected to it. Especially growing up, I just always wanted to I never wanted to feel excluded. I always wanted to feel, like just the same as everybody else and kind of like fit in. And, as a young kid, you're not doing anything to try to stand out or be different from anyone else, at least not, something that you don't have any control over, or right. And
so usually we don't want to stand out, right?
We don't want to stand out. No. So I never really spoke about being Jewish. I never really brought it up, but I knew. So my friends knew and people knew, and it just kept coming up throughout my childhood. Like, I have all these like small memories of things that, kids said to me about, whatever. I gave the example about learning about the Holocaust and, having the whole class just look at me and like, and at that moment realizing like, oh wow, like, like I'm different. This is, it was so scary. Like, I never really wanted to be in that place, but that's how I grew up. I went to a non-Jewish school. I don't know if I mentioned that. And all my friends were not Jewish. I didn't have a single Jewish friend growing up. And I mean, that's kind of like how that's so, like I knew it in San Jose, Costa Rica, going to my normal school, being like everybody else, Jewish, but not actually really traditional at all. I
So,
don't have,
so a little different from everybody, but not really realizing why you're different or what's different about you,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like why do people notice this? Like it's not like, it's not like
Sure.
we're in a time that like you have to like tell people that you're Jewish. I mean, we have times in history where people were walking around with like David stars on their shirts. Like you knew they were Jewish. Like at this point in my life, like why am I different? Why is it so special about me that everybody keeps bringing this up? But so I guess because people were constantly bringing it up, I constantly try to like make it look less than what it actually was. Like I feel
Mm,
like maybe if nobody had brought it up, I would have felt more comfortable with it. But because it was like,
interesting.
so then
Interesting.
at some point, I mean, my parents, they always, they didn't grow up religious. They grew up definitely more traditional than what I was raised. But um, I guess in my parents, they really, really wanted to come back and they really wanted to um, start being more traditional and, connect more with their Jewish roots and traditions and everything. And when I was 11, this is like the point in which we started going to the Chabad shul. My parents, they met the, Rabbi Spalter, who's the shliach, and his wife Hannah, and
So
they,
there's shluchim there in Costa Rica. So at that point, you were living in San Jose?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I grew up
Hmm.
in San Jose, and so they met the shluchim, and they started, I guess, going in this tshuva journey, going, how do you say tshuva? Like, and
Returning to their
returning,
heritage.
trying
Okay.
to learn more about Judaism and become more religious, keep Shabbos, kosher, all these things that like didn't make sense to me. Like also like I just felt like religion was more of like just having certain holidays and that was it. Like Judaism is it's your whole life. It's like it goes down, from the top of your head to the bottom of your shoes. Like it's everything. So I just couldn't understand what was going on. Everything was changing. And because I was 11 years old, my brother was 7 years old or so. They put him already in a Chabad school. And the Chabad school at the time, it only got up to a certain grade. Like they didn't have my grade already.
Hmm.
Um, so I couldn't go into Chabad school anyways, but I didn't want to because I was already
Sure.
11, about to be a teen. And like I could not
Right.
I wasn't getting
Right.
that change at that point. And my parents, they were super understanding, never pushed me to do anything that I didn't want to do, which was obviously very smart of them and very mature, but also very hard. I mean, my mom, my dad, they had a very hard time, um, because at the same time as they're trying to connect more and be more spiritual and try to bring God into their lives more, I'm like, I
Pulling in the other direction.
right, completely. And I and my friends were not Jewish. I wasn't really. We were going to shul, but I guess I wasn't really connecting. Um, Not because anything was being done wrong. I was just at that point in my life. I was 11, 12, 13. I mean, it's like
Like teenagers aren't so interested, right?
no.
Yeah. And I'm sure there was like so much change going on in your
Yeah,
in at home, and you were like, "What's going on here?"
I know.
Right?
Like whatever was going on in school was more interesting, I guess, than going to
Right.
shul. And um,
Sure.
also, just in general, the way I was dressing at that point was not obviously, I don't know, I didn't look religious at all in my family. They all already started moving in that direction as well. So we started going to shul. At first, we used to go by car, and then we moved closer to shul so that we could walk. And I would wear skirts to shul, but I never, I was terrified that someone would see me. Like it's so funny to say now, like who cares? But like I didn't want people to see me wearing a skirt. Like it felt so wrong. I remember one time my birthday, my parents organized a surprise party and it was on Shabbos and my friends came and I was wearing a skirt. Um, and when they saw me, like they jumped up, they're like, surprise! And I'm wearing a skirt. I ran upstairs and I changed to pants, but then I came up, I was like, now we can have a party. Like I
Right.
just felt like it was too different. Also having my non-Jewish friends that I could do was just like, doing all the
Right. Two
Chabad
different worlds.
traditions.
Sure.
I felt like I didn't want them to feel like I was weird.
Right. Right. That's so
And
common.
yeah,
So
and
normal for a teenager not to feel that way.
right. Um, so that's why my parents, I think, were very understanding, and they never pushed me, even though, my mom, my dad, they they wanted me to, and they obviously they prayed to Hashem that I should go in the right direction, but they never forced me to do anything. And also the rabbi and the rebbitzin, they were very understanding, very accepting, and
Mhm.
so when we started going to shul on Shabbos,
Are you the oldest in your family?
I am,
You are. Okay.
and
So, so you started going to shul on Shabbat, and
so I said I used to put my phone in the bathroom stall, and then everyone, because I didn't want to take it out, in shul, like I knew it wasn't respectful, so I would, if I wanted to check my phone, if I got bored, I would go, whatever, and then at some point, I felt like it also wasn't right, like it just felt like disrespectful as well. So I said, you know what, might as well, if I'm not going to be in during the davening, during the prayer, so might as well just go read something. So there was like this little room. Now the Chabad house in San Jose is like, it's huge, and they have a beautiful shul. And then it was like a little house. It was homey. It was amazing. They had this little room with like all these like books. Um, and so I found this book with like stories of the Rebbe, and I read this story. I'm pretty sure it's this story. I don't remember exactly, but I know it's a story that there was this Jew living in a town, like it was a very isolated town, and there were no other Jews. He didn't have a community. He felt lonely. I think he might have survived the Holocaust. I'm not even sure, but you know, he just prayed to Hashem, prayed to God that he should find another Jew, or else he would just, become like everybody else, and he would become a Gentile or something like that. I mean, I don't remember exactly the storyline, but I know that, the next day, a Chabadnik, a Lubavitcher rabbi, knocks on his door and brings him matzah and tells him it's Pesach, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent me here to find you, and I've been looking for you everywhere. And, this man didn't even know who the Rebbe was, and he didn't know who this man was, but he was, so surprised, and just his neshama calling out for Hashem and the Rebbe just making those connections in the world. I suddenly realized, and I had that on that same day, I had this realization that, what the Shluchim are doing, they're doing for me. And that the Rebbe maybe thought about me. He definitely thought about me when sending Rabbi Spalter and his wife and his family here. So they left everything they knew to come find me, not just me, and just everybody else they've inspired. And then, but at that moment I realized that this was something else that I felt deeply connected with. I knew that you couldn't find such a thing in any other religion. Like I felt like this was something very special that, like I felt like we were all one neshama, and I felt very connected to the Rebbe, and I really love the Rebbe. I still love the Rebbe, but
right.
at that point I
Okay.
realized, and that I love the shluchim, and that I love their
Devotion, dedication.
yeah, and so we moved to Israel when I was around 14 years old.
Hmm. Wow, that's a lot of change. A lot of change going on in your life.
Yeah.
Why did your parents move to Israel? They just needed to move
Um,
there.
I guess they realized it was you know, what they had to do for our family, if they wanted to
Right.
continue with this track. And
Sure.
I had my bat mitzvah. I forgot to say I had my bat mitzvah in Costa Rica, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the name Naomi was given to me. I was born only
Oh,
Nicole, and
Nicole.
then
So now that's when you
whenever
became Naomi.
that's when I became
Beautiful
Nicole
name.
Naomi. Yeah, thank you. I never let go of Nicole because I feel like they both represent like who I am, like Nicole and Naomi. So
Right.
people ask, I just say Nicole Naomi. But um, anyway, so when we came to Israel, I started going to an all-girls school. And that's when I kind of realized, because this wasn't a Chabad school, it was, you know, the girls there were very easygoing. Like they were more like modern Orthodox rather than like Lubavitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt at that point that like, Judaism is like a spectrum, and like I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
to jump from being who I was at that point to being like Chabad, like, or a stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It could take time, and I could, pass all these different stops in the way, and grow and get closer, at my own pace. And that's what I started doing. That's when I really opened up to learning more, understanding more, and that's when I really started keeping Shabbos, keeping kosher. Um,
So it was
and
kind of like a gradual path. It was a
right,
little bit at a time, slowly
right.
learning and slowly opening yourself up
And
to it.
my parents were obviously very happy. I was very open with them. We have I just want to say that we have the best relationship. Like, it's never been, um, it was always very easygoing. And even though they had their ways and I had my ways, and, we met in the middle, but I guess up until that point, it was always just the same love and the same connection. And so um, when I got to 12th grade and I basically had to decide what my next step would be, at this point, everyone in school already knows me as the Lubavitcher one and everything. Oh, wait, I forgot to say something. So
Okay.
when I was 16, I basically went to the Knesset Shluchis, which is the um,
The annual convention of Chabad emissaries,
right,
of
right.
women emissaries.
And this was very important for me during high school. Before I even made any decisions, I went with my mom. We went together, and this was my very first time. I
So
had
you
been
went
to the Rebbe,
all the way from Israel.
all the way from Israel. I had been to the Rebbe, but I hadn't been to the Kiddush, obviously. And this specific group would take you into the actual banquet, and you would see everything and all the videos and meet the shluchis and everything, the emissaries and everything, which was very special. And just being there, looking at, hearing the stories and meeting all these wonderful, wonderful women, and again, really connecting to their mission. I felt in my heart like this was something that I wanted to do,
Mhm.
but I didn't know how I would ever even get to that point. And
Something that you wanted to do in terms of what? Like in terms of
I
outreach, in terms of
really
teaching people?
outreach. I just
Hmm.
really
Wow.
wanted to. I realized that I wanted to be a shlucha, right, like an emissary. I realized that this was something that, you know because the same feeling that I had, when I was at the library, I said it was the same feeling I had here. It's like you would do everything for this one Jew, for them to feel like you would be there for them, and you would, go out of your way to find them, even if it's just to do something. I mean, just to help them. It would be such an honor, and it would make me so happy to make another Jew feel the same way I felt. Um,
Mhm.
and just like you're really not trying to get anything from that other than their happiness and their well-being. Having experienced that myself, I just felt like it was something that I also wanted to give. But I just, I was still in high school. I was still figuring myself out. And even though all my friends already saw me as the Chabad one and the Lubavitcher one, and I was definitely different already from all of my friends that were a little more modern Orthodox, whom I'm still friends with up until this day. They're my best friends. Um, but obviously they just saw me as I was already on a different level, religiously, and so I still, for some reason, I still didn't feel like I was enough. I felt like I still had some way to go. Um,
Mhm.
so with the years, I worked on myself more and more, and then after high school, when I had to decide, this is where we stopped, and I had to decide what to do. I decided to go to seminary, to a Chabad seminary, which is a 4-year course, learning how to be a teacher. Um, you get a degree at the end of the 4 years, but you also just throughout the way, there's all these different classes just teaching about Chabad mindset, and just even learning how to be a teacher through the eyes of the Rebbe and all of the Chabad Rebbes, all the Chabad rabbis. I don't know. And
Mhm.
so this was something that it was a really big deal, because going to seminary, it's really I could decide if I wanted to do something a little bit less intense, like going to midrasha, which would be just learning, it would be a little bit more relaxed and more outgoing. But this was really intense, 4 years
Of
of just
4-year commitment. That's a very long time. Wow.
so I even had to wear the dress code and everything, which was very new to me. I was already dressing modestly, but it wasn't I didn't have a dress code. I never had, suddenly I felt like I went back to high school, and I redid my high school years, but through Chabad. So this was a very
Interesting.
big deal for me. Um,
Hmm.
and I even did a half a year shikut, how do you say, outreach,
Outreach work. Hmm.
created in China, Shanghai, through
Oh,
this
wow.
seminary. Yeah. Um, which was also a very big deal for me, just figuring out, exactly what I wanted to do, if I wanted to leave Israel or stay in Israel. Made me realize that I really wanted to go out of Israel when I got married, and do this, the same way that it was done for me. Um, and after that, I got married. My husband Yaakov, he also comes from not from a Chabad family, like he was religious, but he became Chabad on his own. And
Mhm.
so we have a lot of very similar values, and we both knew we wanted to go out on shlichus very, very strongly. And so after I gave birth to my firstborn, Randy, we started looking for places. And we're talking to people, and they're telling us, it's so hard to find a place today. Everything's taken. Like, if,
So
like,
you were looking for a place to go on shlichus, to go to teach and
you want to do
to
it. It
to
just
do the
started,
same thing that was done to you when you were so young, to be able to give that love over to
yeah.
someone else to do your outreach work, and you couldn't find a place.
I mean, we hadn't been looking for that long, but just our introduction to it was that it take you, a good couple of years. And so we're like, okay, like, like it's a little scary because, like, what do you do? Do you start like moving forward in Israel, or do you wait and then only look for places? Like, it kind of puts your life at this like pause kind of thing. Like, you don't know exactly what to do.
Right.
We're obviously,
For those that are watching that don't understand, like it's fascinating, but so many young Chabad couples want to go out on outreach work that it's hard to find a good location because so many places are taken, right? And that's what you found. It was hard to actually find a location to go to because
it's like
there's
the
so
world is,
many,
but Chabad is everywhere. And so
right? So where are we gonna go, right?
I was so like, it was really scary just to like, there's people that take them 4 years to find a place, like things like that, like it just, we wanted
Mm.
to go out at that point. So, I realized, okay, I'm just going to write to the shlocha in Costa Rica, to Hannah, which I had been in touch with all these years, and she knew my story. And I'm going to ask her if she knows anyone. I didn't even
Mhm.
ask about Costa Rica because I knew Costa Rica was not even an option. Um, they had been here for 30 years. If they didn't need 35, I'm sorry, if they didn't need a rabbi for Tamarindo until now, why would they need a rabbi now? So I'm just going to ask them if they know anyone that could need someone. And
Just
so,
to make a connection,
and
just to do networking, sure.
there was a lot of lucky, so I said maybe she could get me in touch with someone. Um, And then she tells me, "Oh, we're actually just looking for someone for Tamarindo. My husband just told
Wow.
we needed someone." The thing was that all of these years, the community here started growing. Up until the point 2 years ago on Hanukkah, a lot of the community members reached out to Rabbi Spalter and said, "We really need a rabbi here, and we need someone to come here." And Rabbi Spalter he was debating because he's not going to bring a whole rabbi to a city with so little Jews. I mean, it didn't really make sense, but he said, okay, we can meet up and talk about it and see what we can do. So they did this like Hanukkah event meetup thing, and when Rabbi Spalter came, he thought he would meet up. Would be a couple of Jews sitting, on the table discussing. He realized that when he got to the party, it was like hundreds of people
Wow.
all over the place. It was like a growing community. And at that point, he said, "Okay, you know what? It's final. We have to bring a rabbi here. Next year, you're going to have a rabbi." And so this all happened at the same time as we're looking.
Wow.
It was so,
And you called her right then, like right at the same time that they decided to
yes,
look.
yes. Exactly when they were looking, and it was just being at the right place at the right time. Thank God it was it was the
Divine providence,
divine
absolutely.
providence.
Right.
Yeah, it was like everything happened in that way. So we would get to Tamarindo. It felt really right. It was very scary to come back because I just thought I had like closed that chapter in my life. But I realized, okay, maybe I should have had other plans. Maybe this whole thing happens. I would have come back to Tamarindo. I grew up going to Tamarindo on vacation, and it was like my favorite go-to place. Like the nicest beaches. Just like I loved being here. So coming back was honestly very exciting for me. We came back for Tishrei for the high holidays last year for the first time. Um, we had the first minyan here on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot. Just everything we did was the first time. And so we brought a Torah scroll with us. It was the first time there was a Torah scroll in Tamarindo. It's like it was very, very exciting and powerful, and like we felt like we were doing something so, so special. And I mean, my husband and I realized, getting to know everyone the whole community, the kids, very, very close with them. We decided that we wanted to stay.
Hmm.
We were going to open a Chabad house here. Um, and so we
How,
basically,
did it bring back a lot of memories from your childhood when you moved
it
back there?
definitely did. I couldn't go, just one street without recording everything and sending it to my family. Like, do you remember the store? And like, when they closed this one place and like whatever. And like, I knew my way around. The funniest thing is in San Jose, it's like I didn't even forget. Like, our Waze wasn't working because we didn't have the SIM. And so I was telling my husband, just go right here and then make a left. And I was getting pleased. Like, I left as a teenager. I remembered everything. It was so funny.
Wow.
It brought back
Wow.
so many memories, and it felt.
But
I
you
mean,
left as a
also
teenager and you came back so different. So that's
right.
also
I
interesting.
came out
Yeah.
a completely
Wow.
different person, but I remembered everything and the language and everything. I mean, it's for me, it's like coming back home. And my husband also feels that way because obviously, being here, having me here, just makes things easier for
Sure.
him in a way. He hadn't had to learn
For sure.
Spanish yet.
Right.
I'm doing all the
Wow.
talking. So, so I
That's
mean,
funny.
yeah. So, oh, he's learning now. He's good. He knows Spanish. Um,
Right.
but anyways, then
But it was also far that you were going from home, from what
it
was
was
now your
nice.
home in Israel.
That was the only thing I think that was stopping us from, making the decision to actually move here was the distance. It was like
Mhm.
it's a literal like you don't have a straight flight from Tamarindo to Israel, so it's either taking a flight from Liberia, which is an hour and a half away from us, the airport, or from San Jose, which is 4 hours, and
Mm.
then it's always going to be like the 20 something hour flight with a stop
Right.
in the middle. I mean, we've
Wow.
been, we've done this journey for as long as like 30 plus hours, just with two
Wow.
kids, going from,
It's
from,
not
from
easy.
airplane to
Sure.
airplane to airport to whatever. It's crazy. It's a lot of work, and the time difference is also like, there's only like a few times a day that I can actually catch my parents and speak to them. Um,
Sure.
and being someone that's very, my family, I come from a very small family. Like, I have my brother, and then my mother gave birth to another two girls. So we're only four siblings.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, the whole family, like extended family, is also not so big. So just being so far away from them, it really broke my heart. I felt like I was doing, I don't know. It felt a little bit scary, but my parents and especially my mom, they were so supportive of this decision, and they were so happy with what we were doing because for them, especially to see me, the one that they didn't know what was gonna be with me. I mean, they had faith in me, and they knew I would do great things, but maybe I wasn't gonna be so connected to my Judaism, and it was definitely something that they wanted to see in my life and something that they prayed for, and to see me actually not just, being, religious, I guess, but also just actually actively going out and doing something for other people and teaching them about their Judaism was
Wow.
very special to them. And it was like come full circle for all of us.
Wow. I,
So,
I think when we spoke, you said this rebel teenager, had become now
yeah,
this. They looked at you as this rebel who now they
right.
always had a good relationship with you, but you were the rebel in a sense who just
Yeah, I was a
became now
rebel.
who now became the Rebbitzin. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It's yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I every time I speak about it with my parents, my dad was just telling me last week, like, we would just pray, like, being sitting down for Shabbos meal, and you're in your room, you're not coming downstairs because you just don't feel like it, and we're not gonna force you. So, your mom and I, how we would just pray to Hashem that that you should have a good and healthy relationship with your Judaism and with your history, and that you should see it through our eyes and see how wonderful and beautiful and how much we're gaining
Wow.
from it on the you know on a personal
Wow.
level, and how it could be a part of life, and you could. So to have me, do this, it was very special for them. It's also their,
Sure.
legacy and their
Absolutely. For
right.
sure. They're nachas, their joy and
Really.
pleasure in life. Right. Wow. So it sounds like everything worked out beautifully. You went full circle. You now are in your hometown or in your home vacation town, and you're shluchim there.
Yeah.
But then you had a turn that there was a difficulty that came on the horizon. Tell
Right.
us about that.
So, so the thing was, I thought this was the end of it. I would go back home, and we're already this lucky to Tamarindo. Like everybody knows, we're moving to Tamarindo. My parents, they gave us their blessing, obviously, and it was so exciting. My husband's parents, of course, they're not Chabad, but they were also very excited about it. Um, and so we go back home, and we're sure that what we're gonna have to deal with now is just packing our stuff and getting to Tamarindo as soon as possible. Um, but then out of nowhere, my mom, when I come back, I realized that she just was acting very different, and she was very, very weak, and it made me very scared, obviously, because she's such a strong woman. She had always been so strong. She had always, she was my inspiration. I told you, like, if I had to do an interview about her and talk about her, it would just never end. There's so much to say about that woman. She was really the one that pushed me into doing this, and she was the one that, was my inspiration to even go to Tamarind in the first place. Um, so when I came back home, she told me that she had undergone a medical procedure. She didn't want to scare me, but it ended up being that she had cancer, and they had found out while we were on shlichus,
Mhm.
which was I felt like God had like done a prank on me or something, because if I had found out that my mother, my only mother, was sick even a month before I went out of shlichus, I don't think I would have ever gone,
Mhm.
to Tamarinda in the first place. It was like it was so obvious to me that I would have to stay and take care of my family, also as the oldest one. Um, and so I didn't know what to do. I freaked out. I I was in a position which I didn't know what my next step would be. Um, but the doctors were super chilled about it. They said it's nothing. They said there's like a 93% chance that you'll get out of it. It's such an easy kind of cancer, it's nothing to worry about. Um, And because my mom was healthy, they said it was an even 97% chance. Like there was nothing to even worry about. Um, but it's just so hard to talk about it. I can't believe I'm even saying that on camera. We stayed for 4 months until she basically finished her treatment and she was fine. I was pregnant with my second son, and you know when we knew she was fine, and after the doctor said that it was absolutely nothing, and it was like a joke. They made it seem as it was really, really like
Very
getting
treatable.
yeah,
Mm, right.
like curable, totally normal, nothing, and your mom's healthy, it's totally fine. And only then I decided, okay, so I guess we're gonna go back. We went back. We were preparing to give birth. We didn't know where. Should I go back to Israel? Should I stay? My mom said that she would come to Tamarindo to be with me during my birth, because my first one was very hard. So she really wanted to be there with me. And it was so exciting. I told everyone about it. My mom's gonna come. She's gonna be here with us. For me, it was also like to show her around everything that we grew up with. And
Of course.
but then as we're getting closer to the actual due date, she started feeling worse. Um, a month before she had to come, she had this like checkup that she did, and they basically found out that it it had it had grown. The cancer had grown and had come back, and the treatment didn't work basically. And so at this point, she's trying to convince me that, well, don't worry, I'm gonna start the treatment now, and then I'll fly in for a week to be with you, and then I'll come back. I mean, she never really she was always like so like I don't know,
Positive,
and like confident, like she made it seem like it was
optimistic.
optimistic. And I told her, listen, Ema, like it's fine. I'm gonna give birth. I'll be okay, and I'll come to Israel right away. So that's what we did. I mean, I gave birth. Thank God, Hannah Spalter, the shlicha, she came with me. She was so sweet. We're like family now. We stayed by them for a month, and then yeah, they were so sweet. They took care of us during this hard time, and then I basically flew into Israel. This flight happened to be the last time I saw my mother. I didn't know at the time, but when we were there, I realized that it was really, really much worse than I could have ever seen through the screens, and she was suffering a lot. So we had to do a lot when we got there. I say that it was like as if we had gone from one child to 4 children in, in a month, because I took care of my little sisters and and I just took care of my mom, and I was with the family, and it was like I barely saw any people on that trip. All I ever did was just be with my family, and then I'm sorry, it's like hard for me to speak about this, but
Of course.
it's just crazy. I can't even believe like I'm even, you know,
Wow. Talking
saying
about it.
that.
Sure.
Just before we left, she had this final uh check. How do you say, like a checkup, like a
Checkup.
test, right? And
Mhm.
um, she had finished her treatment, and what we found out is that you know it just got worse. It spread. It was very aggressive, and the doctors pretty much said there was nothing to do at this point. And so my mom didn't give up. She said she would do a different treatment, like something, more natural maybe, but I just didn't know what to do. I'm not going to go back to Costa Rica and leave my mom like this. Um, and my little sisters and my small family, and my husband,
Of
obviously
course.
supportive, and he also feels very, very connected to my family. So we never would have wanted to leave them, especially at this point. I mean, it didn't make sense for me to go back to Costa Rica having all of these things happening in my personal life. But my mother, who was so strong and courageous, and she had such big faith in Hashem, she said to me, you cannot stay. I was the biggest help for her. So we were the closest. We were best friends. So she told me, I'm sorry, but I don't want you to, you have to go back.
Wow.
You have to
Wow.
go back, because this is like, you don't understand how important this is to me. Like, this is also part of my story, a part of my life. Like, this is not just you doing this for yourself. This has nothing to do with you. This is also
Wow.
this is my pride. This is my seeing you do all of this, and how you're helping people, and how you know, how you're there for people, and you're trying to grow a community, and you're trying to make Judaism accessible in Tamarindo, the place where like you used to go as a little girl when you didn't know anything. This whole thing is so important to me. You have to go back. She was crying. She was begging me to go back. I said,
Wow.
if I want to make her happy, I have to go back, even though I didn't know what the next time I would see her would be. And so this was right before the high holidays. So this is a year after this whole thing had even started. Came back. We did the high holidays. They were amazing. Thank God, it was amazing. And then the war began, and it just like we didn't know exactly what to do. We stayed because we have so many Israeli families here. We wanted to strengthen the community. We wanted them to know that, we're together, and also just with all the anti-Semitic, rates going up throughout the whole world, we just felt like it was like, the best if we just stayed and stayed with our community, and did our best to just grow even more and expand even more and get us even closer together. But at the same time, my mom was getting worse and worse and worse.
Mm.
At some point, my husband had gone to the emissaries conference for men. He was in New York. I was here alone, and my father said that they didn't know where it was going to go. The she was suffering too much. She was
Mother. He didn't know what was happening with your mother. He was telling you about your mother.
with my mother. She was barely eating. She was barely functioning. She was, and I say this with so much pain. It's the same mother that literally would never even sit down for a second. Like, she was super active. She was a sports teacher. She was a health like activist. She was like everything, and she never stopped for 1 second. Having her suffer so much. He said, "What's the fat?" My husband came back from the Guinness. And my dad just said, "What's the fastest you can get here? Because we don't know how much longer it's going to take."
Wow.
We took a taxi to San Jose because that was the only flight we could find was from San Jose. On the way there, I found out my mom had passed away, and
So sorry.
basically I would be landing to her Levaya, to her
Funeral.
funeral, and it was just 30 hours of pain and suffering and just disbelief. And I don't know, just I had no, I landed, and after, you just, after such a long journey, and everything just feels so confusing. I never even got to say goodbye to her. I was so upset and so angry.
I can
Um,
imagine.
I just felt like, why am I even doing this? You know, why am I
For
even here?
sure.
This whole thing just didn't make sense. Like, I could have just been this whole year next to my mother. I wasn't even.
Of course.
And then at the funeral, because this was a huge funeral, so many people that my mom touched and was in touch with, and they all came. And I had people that I've never even met in my life come up to me and say, "You're Yehudit's daughter. Like, you don't understand how proud she was of you. You don't understand how much your shlichus just made her happy and fulfilled." And she would never stop talking about it. Basically, it was something
Wow.
that you just have to continue, because this is this is what she taught you. This is what she wanted you to do, and this is, through this shlichus, you're basically continuing her light in the world. This is your way of keeping your mother alive in this world. And it was like nobody, it was as if people were reading my mind in a way. Like, everybody could tell that it would have been it would have made sense for me to stay, right? I mean, I have two little sisters that are like my daughters. They see me as their mother. Their mother just passed away. They're tiny. They're 6 and 3 years old. I mean, our family's tiny anyways. I didn't want to leave my father alone with all the, everything that has to be done. But my father also said to me the same thing. He said, "You don't have to worry about anything. Your mom and I are the proudest, we've ever been, and this makes us the happiest. This is also good for our whole family. We want the rest of your siblings to also go, excuse me, to also go in the same path. And so you should continue doing this. You have our blessing, and it's, we're gonna come see you, and it doesn't make a difference. It's
Wow. Incredible.
it's still your journey. It's still what you have to do in your life." And so that's, after a month of being in Israel and really strengthening ourselves and then getting back in track, we realized that really this was exactly what the Rebbe wanted of me, of us. And this whole thing, the way it turned out, was actually perfect. Because yes, if I had found out just a month before we went out on slichas that my mom was sick, I wouldn't even have gone out on slichas. So just the whole way it happened. Maybe if my mom had passed away before I went out on slichas, then I would have definitely never even thought about leaving my family.
Right.
This whole thing just happened so that I would realize and come to terms that with the fact that I'm here, and this is my choice. This is my calling. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I want my children and my family, my siblings to learn too. That we're here to give. This is what my mother would have wanted, that I would continue giving, and being in a place of being grateful and thankful for what you got, and also giving back. It's like, that's exactly what I feel right now. I feel like I'm in the exact place where I, 10, 12, I don't even know how many years ago, I myself had no idea what I was doing, in terms of Judaism, and where my eyes were enlightened, and where my life was changed completely. And this is the place, and that's what I'm doing right now. That's why I'm back in here, so that I could find, all of the Jews in here, and show them that, I'll be here for you. And it doesn't even have to do only with Judaism. This is also just feeling like someone would leave their own comfort zone to come look for you and help you, because we're like family. And I just want you to know that the same way you wouldn't, be scared to knock on your parents' door and just walk in. I want people to feel the same way here. If you have a problem, if you want to talk to someone, that's what we're here for. And so our community, which is just growing, and that's what I always say to them, that this is what this place is all about. And so I'm very happy that I stayed. I'm happy
Wow.
for my mother, for the Rebbe, for Hashem.
And I'm sure your mother is looking down at you from heaven and is so proud of you, because you're doing such wonderful work and you're such an inspiration. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being there. It's
Thank you. Thank you for
it's
having me and letting me speak about
really
the whole story.
really incredible. Are your do you have any thoughts for the future? What your dreams are for the next little while?
Yes, so we're constantly just trying to uh do more and grow and expand. We started out in this very, very tiny apartment, um, which barely fit our family in. Like, our bedroom was actually our storage room. Like, there was a point I couldn't even walk into my bedroom. I was like stepping on boxes because it was like so many things. Like, when you have a Chabad house, most of the things that you have are not even yours. They're for your slichas, they're for your community. So we just now moved into, thank God, into this big house with a big, big backyard. We were actually like, if we wanted to do an event for 100 people, give or take, um, we would have to we would have to rent a venue for 2K a night, with nothing included, just the venue, and it's like it made no sense. I mean, we're not getting any funds from anyone. Everything we have is from donations, and so we're like, what are we gonna do? So when we found this place, we knew it was perfect. Like it's probably the only place in Tamarindo with a backyard. And I don't
Wow.
know why they don't have any like normal houses here, but so we have this very, very big area which we want to use for events. We started doing more shiurim because like, our community is just begging to have more classes. We started a group for men. My husband does every Tuesday, um, and then on Mondays we have a mixed group, men and women, and we learn Tanya. Both No, my husband actually, I don't know if he teaches Tanya. We teach Tanya in the mixed one, and then the one that my husband does is just like the weekly portion and things like that. We have the Shabbases here with tourists coming in every single Shabbos, and community as well, and it's really fun and we love it. Just love having a lot of people over. I grew up also, once my parents started doing Shabbat, they also started bringing so many people over on Shabbat. I don't know what doing Shabbat alone feels like. I just
Wow.
love having
Wow.
community over. And obviously the holidays, we're starting a Hebrew school. I mean, I could go on all day. It's pretty much just starting a community with everything that comes with
Sure.
that because we really didn't have anything here. The first Torah scroll we brought here, the shul is our home, It's not everything that
Absolutely.
you could imagine when you start a community. Like, that's what we're doing right now here. And there's so many people here, so many tourists coming in every single day. And so that's why we're
Wow.
doing our fundraiser, actually have the funds to do all of this because we can't do it on our own. This is like
Absolutely. Wow. Wow, Nomi, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you.
And this story and the inspiration that it gives to people and the work that you're doing there should really be a merit for your mother in the world that she's in now. And I'm sure she's just looking down at you and seeing such beauty in all that you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us and thank you for sharing your beautiful story.
Thank you
Thank you.
for having me.
Wow, what an incredible and inspiring interview with Nicole Naomi Rubenstein. Just so many parts to it that just hit you and that just send chills down your back, and just the way that divine providence moves and works and creates a situation where she came full circle in her life, where she found her meaning, her purpose as a Chabad shlucha, something that she wasn't that way when in her youth, and how she just came full circle. But then the turn in her life of her mother's passing, the tragedy, the difficulty, and the challenge that she had in leaving her and going back. But what hits you also is the strength and the courage and the idealism and the determination of her incredible mother. I mean, just imagining it, how her mother just kept encouraging her to go back and to do this, and how this was really a legacy not only for her, but also for her mother, and how this meant so much to her mother and her father, both her parents, in just appreciating the beautiful work that she was doing and encouraging her, even in that difficult time, to go back and to continue doing it. And that was really so inspiring to hear about. When we choose things in life, there are times that it's difficult to choose what we're choosing. And it always comes with upsides and downsides, and it's sometimes a hard choice to make, but she knew that she was making that choice with her family's not only approval but their cheerleading of the important work that she was continuing to do. So we wish Nomi Nicole Rubenstein, only comfort for her and her family, and to continue doing the amazing things that she's doing. If you enjoyed watching this podcast and you'd like to view other podcasts, you can find us on Chabad.org/extraordinary. Please make sure you're subscribed so that you can get these podcasts, these interviews straight to your inbox, and that you'll be told as soon as they come out that the new one has dropped. Also, please try to leave us some feedback. We love to hear from you. Leave us a comment, what you thought. We really enjoy seeing them. Thank you again for watching. This is Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories.